What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the Mic Check Podcast. It's your host, T Word, the People's Champ, here for a quick read. Today, we're talking about Deshaun Watson of the Cleveland Browns and him being reinstated after a 10-game suspension from the league for conduct detrimental to the league. All right, so we want to talk about the impact of his return to the field. And basically, this is going to be a first true test of what Deshaun Watson is in the Cleveland Browns uniform. The last time he really played on the field in a meaningful game was nearly 3 years ago for the Houston Texans. He was later traded from the Texans for uh, a nice little chunk of something as far as assets and everything. And then he was rewarded with a high level contract, well over $200 million from the Cleveland Browns in order to acquire his services and get him on board. Now, that being said, this man hadn't played a meaningful down of football yet. He showed up in the preseason, obviously leading up to the suspension. He was able to participate with the team, and it's kind of mixed reviews, but also it's preseason. You don't know what you're going to get: new offense, new chemistry, new players around you. There's a lot of elements and moving parts to where you can't really say what Deshaun Watson is going to be, but we can project. So for me, as a football fan, and I consider myself an analyst to the point where I can look at the situations and the pieces around the player and determine what potential success will be there. Isn't that part of what we do when we play fantasy football? We project on what a player is going to do. So I'm going to project today about Deshaun Watson's impact on the team. The first thing is he's going to scoot Jacoby Brissett to the side and step into a starting role. And for what I can tell, with the investment that they've made in the player, the Cleveland Browns expect to ride this pony into the sunset as much as they can. So Deshaun is going to have some pressure on him to perform at a high level. If not at this point, very much early next season when he gets a full offseason with the team and some of the off the field things that could distract a player or take precedent over what a player's trying to do between the chalk can take over. He's not going to have as much of that next season, while his situation that he was suspended for will follow him like a cloud. Now, the main thing I'm looking at is what are you getting in a player like Deshaun Watson, and what are you getting at this stage in his career? Let's keep in mind that he's still a somewhat younger player because he did come out fairly early in the draft, and he's a highly skilled player. Not only can he use his legs to escape the pocket, make things happen up and down the field, he can also throw the ball. And he throws it with precision. He's been in duels with Tom Brady and some of the best NFL quarterbacks. So we know his mettle has been tested, and we know what he can do when he's on his game. Now, what I would consider as a hurdle is him acclimating to the offense that he's going to play in. Now, one thing is for sure, when Stefanski, his offenses have had a quarterback come into it, they typically improve. So in the past, he's had quarterbacks that were maybe in the 20s, ranked in the 20s. He's gotten them into the teens. Quarterbacks ranked in the teens, he's gotten them into the single digits. Deshaun Watson was already ranked last time he played in the top 10 of quarterbacks as far as production and things of that nature. So the sky's the limit on what he's going to do with Stefanski. Now, that aside, you also have to consider what the locker room is going to think of him, which the players are already talking. They're excited to have him go ahead and come and play because at the end of the day, this is their job. Whatever he's done outside of the game has nothing to do with them. Now that he's served his suspension, it's all about what he's going to do. Is he going to show up and work? Is he going to be a good team player? And is he going to avoid anything else that could get him moved out of the way where he can't start for them? I think he's going to do that. Whether he's learned his lesson or not, that's not for me to decide. But what I can say is that I know that he's been out of the league for pretty much 2 years when you think about it. So it's kind of time for him to get back to business. And if he really loves football the way he said he does, he's going to get in there, make the throws that need to be made, and make the plays that need to be made. What's going to be really beneficial for Cleveland is that they have a built in run game when he's getting there, something that he didn't really have in Houston most of the time. So the play action is going to be a vital part of what he can do. Now, using play action for Deshaun Watson helps you in a couple of ways. Number one, you can fake the handoff, roll the pocket, or roll him out of the pocket, and then he can either take off with the ball and get you some yards on busted plays, or he can get the ball downfield and beat you deep, or he can use that short to intermediate stuff to really eat defenses up. Having to game plan for a dynamic player like this at this point in the season, who's coming in with fresh legs and fresh vigor for the game, could be really tough on some defenses, especially in their division where you've got Baltimore and you've got Pittsburgh and stuff like that. Cincinnati, their defense is a little banged up, so I really don't see any issues there. But when you think about the impact that Cleveland's quarterback is going to have going forward into next year, the sky's the limit with a guy like Deshaun Watson because he does offer the really strong ability to level up the players around him. Receivers are going to want to show up for games. Receivers are going to want to stay extra in practice and get that chemistry down because they know if he's playing well, their numbers are going to look good and their next contract's going to look good too. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, while a lot of these guys are playing for legacy and fame, a lot of them are playing for the money. And having a great quarterback can make a wide receiver look that much more appealing. And I think that that's also going to be something that Deshaun Watson is going to impact on his return. Now, the front office, they've made a commitment already. So what that means in the locker room is that the players understand this is our guy. So you need to learn how to play with him, or we're going to find somebody else who does. The running game is already intact, like I mentioned, and they've got a pretty decent defense. The next thing is for them to build on any momentum and success they can gain with his introduction into the offense. And from that insertion, you just move forward. You have to play within the game. I think they're going to rely heavily on handing the ball off, moving the pocket, and then just getting him to just get some confidence completions. Just throw it short. You may see his average pass downfield, average air yards might be like 15 or 10, something like that the first couple of weeks. I think by the end of the season, they're going to turn him loose. And if they have a winning record, they might choose to be a little conservative the last couple of weeks of the year. But if they're pretty much out of the playoffs, they're going to cut him loose and just let him get comfortable and let him just play football for fun. Back in the backyard, just throw that thing around, sling the pigskin, and just see what happens. So, in my opinion, this isn't going to be a great gauge of what Deshaun Watson can do just yet, but I'm really interested to see how they move the offense next season. So this year, I think it's going to be still run focus until the end of the year, like the last game or so. But next year, I think they're going to be very pass centric and they're going to set up and open up some running lanes by being able to throw the ball really well. So that's my opinion on it. I'd love to know what you think. Go ahead and leave something in the comments. This has been your boy T Word, the People's Champ. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. This is the Mike Check Podcast. Until the next time, we're out of here. Peace.